Hey everyone, IvyLeeGaming here, and today we're playing Higan Eruthyll. For today's video, I'm going to go through and make a tier list for early game progression. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do a tier list based on my experience of playing from soft launch. I did play quite a bit. I got my troop level up to level 80, so that's really good. And I did kind of stop after there. It was a kind of a meh grind once you get going. There's not too much to do every day. We don't get much energy, so we're going to have to see if they fix that eventually with the global launch. I don't think so though, but it is what it is. But we're going to talk about early game for this tier list. This is an early game tier list, specifically, not end game potential. Some of these characters are great, but they're not going to be ideal for early game because they take too many resources, or they're not good until you max them out, and hard to get copies of, etc., etc. And the banners aren't exactly going to help you, like the ones with the special event for Cerslet, for example. But we're going to talk about what's good for early game. Now, if we're going to talk about an early game tier list, you do need to know that you can reset champions. They did optimize this recently here for, like I said, with global here, we'll have the ability to reset characters. But there's a big disclaimer. So the reset of characters is at or below level 50 for accounts created within 2 weeks. So you don't want to pass level 50 or let it go beyond 2 weeks before you decide to reset a character. Now, I'm going to give you the best example of someone you might want to use early, but then reset. That would probably be Asa. Asa is a healer. They're only a rare. And they are Lumino as well. You get them very early on. They kind of come with the story. They're very good for the first beginning, especially if you want to use 2 healers, like with Ruko that we're also going to get. But they're going to fall off. So I think if you're going to use Asa, they can be considered top tier, honestly, for the very first week. But you're going to want to remember to reset them, so you could put those resources on someone that's going to be viable through the end game. But remember that you can use them early on, and they are a solid tier. So we're going to get Media as a free character, right? So let's talk about her first. Media is great. She's an AoE damage dealer. She is Lumino. We also have our healer in Ruko. We're going to get Ruko pretty easily too. And we're also going to get a lot of plays that revolve around Ruko. So it's very easy to level her up. And I think she's a really great starter hero and a great healer, especially with Media on the team as well. I think that's a solid start, but we also have to talk about a couple others that I would consider triple S heroes in Eluya and Gildan. So Eluya is a single target damage dealer. She has very strong damage, and she can do as much damage with her single targets as Media's going to do as AoE. Trust me, I know, I watched it. When I have them about the same levels, they're doing about the same damage in normal fights. So Eluya's big hits might take out one person while Media is blasting all of them at once, and it kind of evens itself out. But both are great to use. I have no regrets for using both in the same team. Gildan pairs very well with Eluya, so they're very good to have together. It's something that's really, really fun to kind of pair the characters together because they stack up with their abilities based on their elements. So that's something very key in this game. So very early on, I would say if you're now we're going to get those characters, and then you're going to have to choose on a banner. You're probably going to want to pull for Eluya. That's just the reality. And then if you get Eluya and you can still go for Gildan before that banner is up, you're definitely going to want to do that. They pair very well together, and they kind of make each other better. I do have a video spotlighting Gildan specifically, and you could check that on my channel playlist. It's from my bigger YouTube channel, actually, not this one, but it's tagged there. So if you want to see a little bit more details on that and my conversation around those two together, you can watch my Gildan spotlight. But I definitely think all 4 of these characters deserve a triple or regular S or triple S spot. Asa is debatable, but especially given that they're rare and they're going to be so easy to build and get copies of, but you're going to want to make sure you reset them I don't see using them forever, especially when there's so many other healers in the game, unless you were super unlucky with your pulls. But we're going to be able to get like Screamer, who I could pull out next. Screamer is a very good healer, has so much utility. She has like increased damage for all allies. She has a silence. She can heal. She can kind of do everything. So getting someone like that a little bit more, what was it, 1-2 weeks into the game with the event, I don't know that you're gonna need Asa. I personally never built Asa on my account, but I can see the value. I just don't think they're 100% top tier, or I think you should probably reset them and use your resources for people that are a lot harder to build overall after. But yeah, worth mentioning. So speaking of the same thing, Cercelet here pairs well with Screamer, but she's not very good until you get her a bit more maxed out. And it's not, unless you're spending a lot. If you're spending a lot and you can max her out because you're making sure you get those dupes for that special event that comes with her and Screamer on the play, well, in that case, she's top tier. But if you're not spending a lot, she's probably going to be more like here. And because she does have a very high investment requirement, and we're talking early game progression, I'm going to put her at B tier just for that reason alone, because it's not going to be the reality that most people can actually max her out and get the value out of her. Early on my account, personally, I also used Kier and Follette together. I'm going to keep them up in the A tier. They're very good. Follette is an AoE damage dealer. She is Enemo with a wind. And Kier is also a wind Enemo champion as well. They can stack up their abilities and pair very well together. Kier also brings a shield and is a really great frontline character. I used Kier and Follette until I got Aluya and Gildan. So this is kind of fitting to put them below them here, because that's kind of how the better versions replaced them on my account. But I think I got through troop level 40 or 30-40 maybe with these two as a core of my team, along with Media and Ruko. All right, and then let's go in and talk about, okay, I don't want to forget anybody. All right, Codier, yeah, I never personally use this character, so I'm going to trust the website's judgment and that they're also a pretty decent starter champion. Maybe not, again, maybe more like Asa, where you're probably going to want to reset them if you get a better sub in early on before that 2-week mark, but absolutely can use them early on. So they have a heal. The wind makes their healing more effective. So Codier you would only use with these two, right? So maybe I'll put her down there just because you're not going to build her alone just as a random extra support or healer. But if you're building a wind focused team for the wind breath buff, then you kind of want to have her with them, and that could make the team very strong and make her healing very strong. And with the shields and the healing, you're going to keep your team alive pretty well. I could definitely see using Follette, Kier, and Codier with like Media as a core damage with Follette, and then those two protecting everybody. That'd be a pretty fun team, I think, to play early on. And then we have Nuno. Nuno is a healer, very good healer, but SSR, so I don't know if she's really worth the investment when there's so many other healers that we can use that are a little bit easier to obtain and build. So she's definitely, I would agree, A tier, but not S tier, and not 100% priority. Caesar is a very good guardian. People really seem to like Caesar. Personally, I haven't played with Caesar myself, so I will trust the judgment here for early game guardian and also provide some healing. So they are a good frontline character as well. But better than Gildan, I don't know. That's probably a debate. I've heard people say they like both. Personally, I do have good experience with Gildan and think they're very strong. All right, Fen is the character we can get from that like dollar pack right away. I think it's $1. I hope they didn't get rid of that. That was fun. But she is an SSR hero or champion character. Small AoE damage can assist a team, but not ideal for single target. So She is a pyro element, so if you're building a pyro focused team, she might be part of that. All right, then we have black here. Black is hydro. I kept getting black on like every team I have, I swear. They have a pretty good kit overall, and they have encroaching cold. But again, if you're doing a stacking team with elements, you want to pair him with some other hydro characters, that's going to be very strong. So I definitely can suggest that. But is he going to be... He's probably not going to be the first one you build unless you play an account and you don't re-roll and you take forever to get a Luya or something else on a banner. You might end up using someone like black on your team. But yeah, he's fun, but not, I wouldn't say he's better than a couple of these others. I think I'd still prefer to do like Wind with Follett and Kier personally, but I have a big soft spot for them. Euphoria is our character we get in the beginning. She does have an not interruption skill, sorry. She has a shield, and she's a good frontline hoplite character. She's pretty versatile. She can do a little damage and tank a little bit as well. She's okay to build up because you're going to get a ton of copies of her and resources to max her out very easily early on. But I don't know that you do use her long term, but she's pretty solid for the beginning. Same thing with Motetsu here. Motetsu, she is a Animo character. I don't have her on my roster, but I know that, yeah, she provides wind breath. So again, if you're talking a wind team with these three characters together, that's something you could probably think of. This is a full wind team right here. I don't know if it's beneficial to go all wind there, but maybe. Although I still think if you were going wind and you wanted to have this core, you'd probably use Media still over Mojetsu. All right, then we're going to talk about Liv. Liv, I feel like, deserves an A tier for sure. I love Liv. She brings some damage and heals, and she also stacks encroaching cold. So we're talking about the stacks with the Hydra team. If you're using why do I forget? Black and Liv together, that's going to be pretty strong and make both of them be even better than they are without. Marina is pretty meh. I think we're going to go down to a lower tier here. They're just a basic ranger. Again, they're a hydro character as well with encroaching cold, but you're probably going to use black or Liv in your team before you probably throw them in there, depending on who else you decide to use. Now, Yume's pretty cool. Yume does have an interruption skill. She's only a rare, so she'll be easy to build. But like if you don't have guilds in and you really need an interruption skill for a certain boss, she might be fun to use, but that might be more of a later game decision. Personally, I went through all of my content early. Probably I don't think I got guild until like troop level 60 overall for my account. I mean my account level. And until I never really needed the interruption 100% to have to build Yume. But they're okay, but you're probably not going to build them. Kolar here is another one we get from the start. They are Animo character as well, but I would prefer to use Follett over Kolar as well, so they're going to stay in a tier below. We do have Queen, but if you're going to talk assassins, I mean, Aluya is just a much better one, so they don't deserve to be too high. Plus, you're going to probably want a better damage dealer on your team, like Media or one of the others that stack with a better element instead of Queen, who's interesting. But she's pyro, but I don't know that she would be the star of your team composition, honestly, so I'd probably not choose to prioritize her. Same thing with Issa is a rare. They are ice or hydro as well. Okay, but nothing to write home about. Same thing. I'm going to go through the rest of these pretty quick now because we're kind of at the end of it. And everyone else is kind of meh. I wouldn't say they're worthy of building or prioritizing. So Rita can be a little bit better once you start getting some more max stats into her through duplicates and stuff, but probably not your top choice early on. I think that's a fair spot for her in the B tier. Armand and Hathor, I really like. I wanted to build them so bad because I kept getting so many duplicates of them, but in the end, there's just so many better options. I got guilds in. I liked Kier for the shields, so I really didn't need to build these two. So, let's see. Hathor is the hoplite. Armand is a guardian. Both are good for the front line, but I think you're just going to have better options unless you're building something very specific with a pyro team. But there's so many other people you can use, like Screamer. Maybe that you would use one of them on your front line as a pyro team, but again, probably not something you would build early on because there's so many other priorities. And then we just have a couple meh rares with Mamo and Sella. I'm not even gonna talk too much about them. And same thing with Siamcom. I'm not sure how to say their name properly, but they are an SSR that seem to be really disappointing to everyone. So I'm gonna stick them down here along, unfortunately, with Basil. Basil is someone that I got on my account, and I just couldn't see putting him into my roster. Like, anyone I would have taken out, I would have been like, eh. Now, I could see putting him into my roster that I'm getting later on in the account and having more options and more flexibility to build someone as not my core team, because he does have a stun, and so that really strong crowd control can certainly be useful. But so I'm gonna put him here. He's definitely not the worst, but I don't think overall that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you'd build him for a while, like only when you really need that one role of a good crowd controller. And maybe that's just more of an arena niche use, PvP, maybe that's more PvP or a little bit later game, but overall not for the very first. If you pull him as your guaranteed dupe like I did, you'd probably be a little bit bummed. That's what we should say. But all right, I'm gonna leave it at that. Hope you guys like this tier list. I feel like it's a pretty good overview of who to focus on early game. I had lots of fun with my characters. Hopefully you guys can enjoy the start, and I hope you guys have some lucky rolls and have a fun start to playing Higan Eruthyll for the global launch, and I'll see you in the next video.